From Boca Raton, Florida, Rabbis Efrem Goldberg, Philip Moskowitz, and Josh Broide are taking you behind the Bima. The BRS rabbis schmooze about contemporary issues and talk to special guests who give a behind-the-scenes look at how they got to where they are and what keeps them going. Welcome to Behind the Bima.
Good evening. It's Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. I'm Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, joined by my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Joshua Broide. We're here to take you
behind the Bima.
We're here to take you on a very special Behind the Bima because we're coming up on the first Yurtzeit, the anniversary of the death of the great Rabbi Kanievsky, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh L'Varacha, of blessed memory. Rabbi Kanievsky was the greatest rabbi of the generation. Brilliant mind, repository of Torah, knew more and faster than a computer. He was just beyond anything that we could imagine, a very, very special individual. And we're going to mark that first Yurtzeit by hearing it from someone who was extraordinarily close with Reb Chaim and who worked closely with Reb Chaim and studied closely with Reb Chaim and did not have the upbringing you would imagine. Let's just say the early part of his life, he was not on the trajectory to be a Chavrusa and a close friend, Talmud of Reb Chaim Kanievsky. But first, a big thank you to our generous sponsor for this Behind the Bima, our good friend David Ehrlich at Gilly's Goodies. Rabbi Broide, Gilly's Goodies is not new to us. Tell us about Gilly's Goodies.
Great partner of Boca Raton Synagogue. We've done so many great projects with him for Israeli soldiers, for Purim. Amazing, amazing friend. He can get it to anyone that you need. He'll get you the Shalach Manos.
Anywhere in Israel. Anyway. Hot, fresh baked Mishloach Manos, gifts all year round, wherever you want them delivered. You've got a kid who's in Israel who's going somewhere for a Shabbos. You've got Purim, Mishloach Manos. You've got family members. Whatever you got going on, Gilly's Goodies. GillysGoodies.com, GillysGoodies.com, G-I-L-I-S, Goodies, G-O-O-D-I-E-S, GillysGoodies.com. Thank you, David, and everyone, Gilly's Goodies, take care of all your needs. Rabbi Broide, what's new with you?
And tell them Behind the Bima sent you there.
Yes, definitely tell them Behind the Bima sent there. In fact, there is, I believe, a special code if you tell them Behind the Bima sent you there. And I'll tell you that code right now. That code is. There's
really no one that does it better than David. Gilly's
Nobody
Goodies.
does it better.
Delicious.
Nobody does it better. BRS. Put BRS and he'll know what you're talking about. Gilly's Goodies. Or you could sponsor Mishloach Manos getting delivered to soldiers. But Rabbi Broide, tell us before we bring on our
guest. What a week.
What's going on?
You've done this trip many times before, but this was my first one. So I had many conflicts, I guess, on the previous.
What trip are you talking about?
I am talking about a trip all the way up north on the fly-in, the Mavakshim fly-in. It was incredible. Lakewood, Muncie, YU, the Ohel, Rabbi Weinberger, Torah V'das, Brooklyn. I mean, you can't.
All over.
You can't even.
Unbelievable. 23 guys flew in for 2.5 days. We met with rabbis, Rosh Yeshiva, community leaders, David Lichtenstein, our friend Ari Stern, Shai Stern hosted us for incredible evenings. And it's all just to light the spark and to get excited and light that fire. And there are people who've gone on the trip previously who started taking up serious Torah study, started to explore their Yiddishkeit, their Judaism more seriously as a result of this trip. Powerful, spiritual, singing, dancing, learning, growing. 6 a.m, we went to the Balabatim Kollel, hundreds of people in a room. Learned 6 to 7, daven at 7, a quick breakfast off to work. We were part of that.
Gala breakfast, don't forget.
Gala breakfast. Rabbi Broide, you ran into one of your...
one of my Rebbeim.
One of your Rebbeim. You ran into one of your Rabbi Stefanski buddies.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Paris Chaim Levin. We saw amazing. First of all, the best part, right before that, right? You were signing some autographs.
Well, I will say it was an amazing moment that whether it was in the halls of BMG in Lakewood or Torah V'das in Brooklyn and certainly YU, we got stopped by people who were like, I love Behind the Bima. I love Behind the Bima. It was, flattering, very nice, very gratifying. But there was one kid in Torah V'das who was talking to me all about Behind the Bima and his favorite episodes, and I love it. And one of the other members of our trip goes, that's Rabbi Broide. He's also on Behind the Bima. And the kid looks over at you and he goes,
that's okay.
And that might have been the highlight of the trip for me. Now I'm going to get emails on mean to Rabbi Broide.
No, but listen, we were talking to, there was a whole group of special needs kids that were walking through the halls of Torah V'das. It was an amazing experience.
Beautiful program they have that meets there. Special needs studying in the yeshiva. They feel they're part of the yeshiva.
Yeah.
Really,
I asked one of the boys. I said, "What are you doing? You're learning here?" He says, "Yeah." What? I said, "What are you learning?" He says, "Torah."
amazing.
He's so
It's a
excited.
beautiful sight. Anyway, it was a great trip. We'll have an opportunity to unpack that more in the future.
Yeah.
All the people we met and the special moments that came out of it and how we were uplifted and some of the messages that will stay
Singing.
with us and stick with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, the singing. I'll tell you that the trip, I don't want to say it can be anywhere, but you got to leave your element. Sometimes you got to just break out of your routine, leave your element, your natural habitat, just be able to have some self-awareness, introspection, get out of yourself and look at yourself. And that's what I think really stimulates and provokes growth and breakthrough. And not everyone has that luxury. It's not always so easy, but when we can, I think to a degree, I give a little Dvar Torah, but the Shalosh Regalim, regel comes from hergel, means routine. The Shalosh Regalim, they break up the routine. Purim's coming, then Pesach, each of these major holidays, it just breaks up the routine so that we can and get excited about something, break out of ourselves a little bit. I was at a wedding on Sunday night, Rabbi Broide. A guy comes up to me and he says, I never learned Gemara my whole life. I can never connect with it. I never succeeded with it. He said, but ever since Rabbi Broide took on MKY, not MKY, MDY.
MDY.
Ever since Rabbi Broide started Rabbi Stefanski's daf, he goes, I did too. I haven't missed a day. He said, Rabbi Broide doing Stefanski's daf inspired me, and that was inspired by Behind the Bima. So I tell you, we've had some tremendous feedback, really gratifying, whether it's Yehuda Cohen at Beit El-Ezraki emailing us that someone listened to Behind the Bima in Israel, had never heard of Beit El-Ezraki, asked if they could come see it, and made a major donation to the person who says, I started learning the Daf Yomi because Rabbi Brody's learning the Daf Yomi. So it's fun and games. We enjoy amazing. It's a great hobby, but there are beautiful things that come out of it.
And I tell you, you mentioned before, who do we bump into? We bumped into a lot of different, very exciting people, but just getting a chance to see one of my Rebbeim from high school. Just imagine all of your Rebbeim from high school, getting a chance to see, who you are, where you've become, and even just the guys on the trip. It's just anyone would be excited to see guys that are Mavakshim. We're just searching. We want to grow.
Mavakshim fly in the Mavakshim ship.
We're not there yet, but we're trying. So.
We got it. For those who are watching, not just listening, you'll see we have a different overlay or backdrop than we normally do, because this week, the next couple of weeks, are the BRS Global Campaign. And it's not like the old appeal and fundraising and everything in Judaism is about money. It's really about gratitude. BRS, we try to provide a lot of content, whether it's this Behind the Bima and the extraordinary 120, 115 people that we've brought to you, like tonight's conversation we're about to bring to you, or whether it's the articles, the shiurim, the panel discussions, panel on recovery from addiction, panel on anti-Semitism, Ben Shapiro and Yair Rosen, panel on, we've tried to bring a lot of content and add value and enrich your life. And we just ask you to be our partner, to help us do it some more. So if you're watching or listening, just stop, take a moment, and go on brsonline.org/global, brsonline.org/global. Do your part. $18, $1,800, $18,000. Tell us what you value, what you get, how it's enriching your life. But really, we're asking for everybody's help. We need you to be part of our global community and our global world and our global value system and ideals. And if you enjoy and you benefit from the content, please, we have a goal. We're only at 15% of our goal. Right. We need to make our goal in order to provide what we provide and do even more, bigger and better and further and more stimulating, more inspiring. And we really need your help. So please, please, please be counted among our friends who are helping us be part of our global campaign, brsonline.org/global.
And it's
Rabbi
never been,
tonight.
I was going to say, it's never been easier. It's never been easier to make a contribution. So we've actually set it up, and we're not going to be doing any more of the show until you go right now. And
that's it.
Go.
Pause. We're not talking.
We're not even talking. Go.
Yeah, we see you. Reach for that phone. Go on that laptop. We see you. Take that moment.
I'm talking to you.
We benefit from things all the time. Are we not worth like a sandwich? Are we not worth, I don't know, a steak? I was at an amazing restaurant last week. I was at the Project Inspire weekend this past weekend. We could talk all about that too. Maybe after the interview, we'll talk about that. But on the way in, we went a day early, Chavrusa and I, get away a little bit, and we went for dinner at the Wall Street Grill. Wall Street Grill in Lower Manhattan, that restaurant, outrageous. Most incredible food, amazing owner, great people, and we're really, really grateful. We had a great meal. If you're there, you're able to check it out. You won't be sorry. It was a great meal. So what people spend on a meal, what they spend on a subscription service on demand to watch something, what they spend on filling their car with gas these days, I don't know, is the content that you get out of BRS not worth that? You can't match what you give elsewhere to that. A lot of people talk about what it does for them, and we're honored, we're proud, we're gratified. We just want to keep doing it, and we want to do more of it. So we thank you in advance. Yeah. We thank you for the fact that as you're listening, you're going on brsonline.org/global.
We have the greatest multitasking audience out there. They're able to
we're watching
listen
live.
and donate.
As we're speaking live, we're watching you live go on and
Yeah.
give, and we're really grateful to you for that. So our amazing guest, Rabbi Uri Tieger, tonight, we said Chavrusa Reb Chaim, but his life didn't begin that way. But if you don't believe us, because a lot of times great people pass away and everyone was their best friend, everyone was their Chavrusa, everyone was their everything. So we'll just show a little bit of, in this case, it was real. Here's some video. There's a little exchange between Uri Tieger, Rabbi Uri Tieger, and Reb Chaim. There's a compilation of several videos of the two of them interacting, how close they were, how casual they spoke. Amazing. You can go. It's like tons of this back and forth. Reb Chaim checking out his writings, sitting and learning, reviewing. Real relationship there. So this is not made up. When he talks about that relationship, you can see it. You're witnessing it. It's available out there, and we're really excited to be able to bring it and the conversation too. So without any further ado, it's a privilege and a pleasure to welcome a Chavrusa of Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal. Started with humble beginnings. Pleasure to welcome Rabbi Uri Tieger. It's a great schos, a great opportunity that we have to host Rabbi Uri Tieger with us. I'm behind the Bima. Rabbi Tieger was a Chavrusa, a Talmud, really a close confidant of Rabbi Chaim Zatzal. And as we're approaching the Yurtzeit, which I know is very painful for you, Rabbi Uri, and for all of Klal Yisrael, to think and to imagine it's been a year without the Sar HaTorah, a year without the Gadol, without Reb Chaim. We'll get to the Rav's whole story, which is extraordinary. But what does this Yurtzeit mean to you? Is this a difficult day? How has life changed in this year without Reb Chaim?
I told people a few days ago that after Reb Chaim passed away, I didn't feel nothing. Just 3 months after his ptire, I start to feel something, because it's mamish traumatic for me. A person with trauma didn't feel nothing. Just 3 months after his ptire, I started to feel the chisoren of Moran Zatzal, and every day is become stronger and stronger. We need Moran Zatzal. We have so much questions. We have so much things we need to ask him. And he's not here. And it's so, all the years, everything little and big, everything, every step we ask him. And suddenly, it's all gone.
We don't have that address, the Sar HaTorah, to ask our questions. So, Rav Tieger, people look at you now today. There are people listening, people watching. You have a long beard and a big black kippah, a big yarmulke. You were a Chavrusa of Reb Chaim. You learned with Reb Chaim, and you edited the Sfarim of Reb Chaim. But that's not the way your life always was, right?
No.
How your life began is not who people see here today. So take us all the way back to your childhood and the way that you were raised and the beginning of this journey, because I heard this story and we had to have you on. It's so inspiring to know, like a modern day Rabbi Akiva, no matter what age, no matter what stage of life, no matter what one's beginning, the opportunity to get involved in Torah learning and Torah teaching and to get to the point of being a Chavrusa with Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky. Tell us about your childhood.
I was normally Israeli, from secular Israeli family, normally like all the secular Israeli, not something weird, not something strange, like everyone in the neighborhood, in the city. I was learning secular school, and when I was 11 years old, my father's father passed away. And one of my father's friends, he approached him and convinced him to start going to the shul to say for his father. And my father, actually, when he was young, he also learned in yeshiva. But his parents are divorced, and he took it very hard, and he go out from the yeshiva and stopped learning over there. And after that, he met my mother, that she came from a very traditional family, just Kiddush on Len Shabbos and not eating milk together. And that's whole there was the whole religious things in the house. When he met her, she asked him, why you need the yarmulke? we're not religious people, so remove the yarmulke, and they married without it. So until my grandfather's passing, we lived like a secular people normally.
Where was it? Which neighborhood? Which city?
In Tel Aviv, in Kiryat Shalom, South Tel Aviv. So in 11 years old, when my grandfather's passing, he started to go to the shul and say Kaddish for his father every morning. And after it, they convinced him to continue with the observance, and he started to go on Shabbos also. And the first time we go with him to the shul was on Shabbos. And after the prayers ended, we're going to the house and be Mechal Shabbos as usual. Just the prayer was in the house, that's all. Maybe Kiddush was also, I think the Kiddush at the start for sure there wasn't a Kiddush. Maybe after it became. But after the tefillah ended, so we loved every Shabbos to go to the pool. There was a large public pool exactly in front of the shul. So few minutes before the tefillah ended, we go out from the shul, run home, and took our swim clothing, and took a different route to hide from the people who get out from the shul. We don't want the people from the shul know that we're going to the pool who open on Shabbos. So we took a different way. And after it, there was another thing happened, that my sister was going to Arachim organization, and she was very inspired from what she heard. And one day she came home and said, from now on, no more lights on Shabbos. And of course, no more TV either. No more TV either. And I was 11 years old, and I was addicted to TV. The TV was my life. And how can I do Shabbos without TV? And it was a messy in the house. I tried to fight her. No, you not turning on lights on Shabbos, it's okay, but TV, no, it's too much. So we argue, and finally we had a compromise to record them, all the movies. We record them on Shabbos and watch them after Shabbos ended. That was the first level of the observance. After it, Baruch Hashem, it became better and better, and we started accepting Yiddishkeit as we grew. And Baruch Hashem, a few years after, it's the yeshiva stuff.
So
you want to hear about the yeshiva from now?
You were 11 years old when you were first introduced to it and started to keep the Shabbat. How did your parents feel when your sister was bringing home this religion and the new rules in the house?
There wasn't there wasn't objection, but they didn't love it so much. But it wasn't there wasn't an objection. I was the opposition. Because the movies.
Right. Because of the movies, and then you
know that my English is so bad, but the little English that I know is just from the movies. I didn't learn English in the school.
The English is excellent. So you started going to yeshiva. There was a change from the public school to the yeshiva.
So a few years after, they decided that it's not appropriate for us to continue in the secular institutions that we were in. So they removed me and my brothers to religious school. I was in the Bar Ilan High School in Tel Aviv. It was they were learning 3 first hours a day. They were learning Gemara, and after that, all day long, Miktsot Chol, not Limudei Kodesh. And the Gemara that they learn it like any Miktsoi, any other Miktsoi. It's like they learn mathematics, there is Miktsoi Gemara. It wasn't Gemara, with Kedusha, with the taste, the Yiddishkeit. It was like any mathematics, geography, and Gemara. I mamish didn't like this situation. It's not talking to me like that to learn Gemara. And 3 years I spent in this yeshiva in Bar Ilan High School in Tel Aviv, and in the 9th grade I was in the yeshiva almost the whole year, because I was the Gabe of our shul, the same shul that my father started to going. After a few years, I became the Gabe because the Gabe is moved. He no longer lived over there. And I became one of the Gaboim. And except this, I was also the Balkore. Since 13 and a half years old, I became the Balkore over there. So I have the key for the shul. And I don't want to continue going to Bar Ilan. So every morning, my mother thinks that I'm going to the yeshiva in Bar Ilan, and actually I was going to the shul. I locked myself over there and studied Mishnah all day long with the explanation of the Batanura. I didn't yet know how to learn Gemara alone, so that's what I can do at that time. And the evening...
How did you have the patience? You were 13 years old, 14 years old?
Yeah.
How did you have the focus to learn Mishnah the entire day by yourself, without a teacher, without other Chavrusas,
I have
classmates?
mamish tremendous yata d'shmaya. I can today that I'm looking to those days. I think that I ask myself the same question. But in those days, it was mamish tremendous yata d'shmaya. I have so much devotion to learn Torah. Today, it's mamish amazing to think about it. But in those days, it seems to me normally.
What were you from 11-year-old secular at the pool on Shabbos to now sitting and learning Mishnah all day by yourself, locked in a shul?
Yeah.
And what were your friends saying at this point?
I didn't think that they knew about it at all. My father at that time is in a very bad situation in his business. And the whole family was one big mess. My father at the time left the house, and the economic situation at the house was very, very bad. Everything was messy. My sister was in the army, my brother in yeshiva, I was locked in the shul, everyone over there was busy with his own things. So my friends, I don't think they knew at all what I'm doing. They just knew that my family is big one mess, and they didn't ask me what I'm doing all over the day. They just know that I'm not coming to the yeshiva, just one in a month to show my face.
Wow. So locked in the shul all day learning Mishnah until when?
Yeah. Until 7 o'clock at night. And 7 o'clock, I go out from the shul and come back home. And I was mamish nervous that the school would call my mother and told her that I didn't show up. But Baruch Hashem, they didn't call because the palm one a month and something like this that I'm going, they see my face, so they didn't call. They saw me at the school anytime. Wow. Baruch Hashem, it's all mamish amazing story because it's not normal. Today, if I'm not sending my son to the cheder, even one day, I get a call. Right. 1 month I didn't was there, and no one calls.
Unbelievable. So how many years was that? 9th grade, 10th grade?
Today I'm 46 years old. It was when I was 14 years old. Yeah, it was 32 years before.
Wow. So so you're sitting learning Mishnah. When did you start Gemara? When did that change?
The Gemara, it became after. There was one rabbi in the shul who learned Gemara Shabbos afternoon, who teach the Gemara Shabbos afternoon before Shalosh Sudas. And I enjoyed to his learning. And like this, a little by little, I start to understand how the Aramic works, what the words meaning. And it was, on low level. But that was the start. After it, I go to another shiurim in Kiryat Shalom in Tel Aviv, where I lived. And there was another shiurim of Gemara. And I start to understand how the Gemara works. That was the start.
Was there a point where you had a lot of questions? You didn't grow up like this. So who'd you ask your questions to? Not just about the Mishnah or the Gemara, just about Hashkafa.
Question about the Emunah or something?
Emunah, yeah.
No, I never had.
You didn't have?
This is the truth. I never had questions about the Emunah. It seems to me so obvious that there is a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the world. I haven't any questions about it.
Wow. So you finished high school, or you finished not going to high school? And then
Yeah.
what was next?
The next thing that after all the ninth grade that I locked myself in the shul, so finally at the end of the year, I told my mother the whole story, what's going on in the whole last year. She was shocked about the story. But after it, I told her I can't continue like this. I needed a serious yeshiva. So we start looking for a serious yeshiva. Normally, yeshiva in Eretz Israel, not accepting someone like me. He never learn in a normal place, from place, I mean. So we try to להתקבל to some yeshivas, except some yeshivas, and they don't want me. בסייעתא דשמיא, there was one person, good shliach, and he connected with me with yeshivas מאוירוס התוירו in Telstone, before Yerushalayim. And I go to one of the rabbis, he do me a test, he saw that I'm not so bad in Gemara, and they accept me to the yeshiva. That was the test that they do to me.
And there were no friends. You didn't go with friends from Tel Aviv or
No,
anyone?
no, it was just me.
Just you. And how was yeshiva? How did it go to start there?
The start was not going well, because as I said, at that time all my family was falling apart. My father left the house, my mother was not working, my sister was in the army, so I wasn't in the school as the family thought that I should do, and I wasn't in good matzav ruach. How do you say matzav ruach?
A good spirit. A good spirit.
Good spirit, yeah. I wasn't in good spirit, so I wanted very much to learn, but when I entered the yeshiva, it's not working. I spend many hours in bed and not come up to learn regularly, and it took me 3 years to understand what I really want to do with my life. Just from the age of 15 to the age of 18, I did almost nothing in the yeshiva. I just wrote many Sifrei Musar and many stories about the tzaddikim of Am Yisrael, and it gave me very much chizuk. But in learning, mamish, to learn seriously, I didn't learn until the age of 18. Just the age of 18, I start to learn seriously. There is another problem in those 3 years, 15 until 18, that the Rosh Yeshiva didn't like me so much. It seems to me that he didn't like me so much. So when I entered the yeshiva, I was sure that they welcome me with open arms and shower me with love, but it not happened. So it's mamish broke me. Except the other things of the family issues, this treatment that I didn't receive from the Rosh Yeshiva was very bad to me. I mamish needed the warmth of the Rosh Yeshiva, and it's not happened. It's not happened. So finally, 3 years gone from my life. I ready to pay $1 million to recycle these 3 years, but I can't. But 3 years in the yeshiva go for nothing. Just at the age of 18, I started to take life more seriously, and I started to learn Mishnah Berurah in order from beginning to end. And Baruch Hashem, I knew halacha very well, and there was some rabbis in the yeshiva who bring their halacha questions to me. So I finally start to be connected to Torah learning seriously, in a seriously way. After 3 years, sometime the Rosh Yeshiva came to me and told me that he understands that I'm drawing to the field of halacha. But he advised me that to be a Rav in Am Yisrael, I first need to know all the Shas. And without it, all the halacha knowledge is lacking. So he advised me to start studying Shas regularly and he will test me on every masechta that I finish. So first, before Etzem Ha'inyan, I was mavish thrilled that the Rosh Yeshiva finally not ignoring me. He knows that I'm alive in his yeshiva. And I accept this challenge. I think it's a good advice. I accept this challenge and I start to learn Shas. And he tests me on every masechta that I finished. But because I wasted for nothing 3 years from my life, I wanted to do now everything much more faster. So I decided I want to finish Shas within 6 months. And I started to learn masechta after masechta, 21 pages a day. It was 7 pages in each seder, and it was mamish amazing. I hardly eat, I hardly slept. It was mamish very difficult time for me, but I knew that if I want to succeed with this, I need to do it properly and in short time. Because
just
if
so the people
Yeah.
listening understand, the people who learn Daf Yomi 1 page a day takes 7.5 years.
Yeah,
There are some people, Reb Chaim Zatzal, he learned Kol HaTorah Kula, but he learned Shas every year. To
yeah.
do Shas in 6 months is not believable. It's unbelievable.
No, I have to be honest. I just learned Gemara Rashi. It wasn't with Toysface, it wasn't with the Meforshim, but it's Gemara Rashi.
Okay,
in my
still.
level, 19 years old level, it was fine. Baruch Hashem, most of the things I
Wow.
understand them. I hope so. And
All of Shas in 6 months at 19 years old, and you weren't just reading it. It was you
no,
were learning it.
I was understanding.
And you were
that
tested. You
in
were
the
tested on
riot,
it.
the Rosh Yeshiva was testing me on it. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. And you met the goal. You finished in 6 months, all of Shas.
Yeah, after 6 months, I was mamish the happiest person in the world that I able to finish the Shas in the first time in my life as well. Mamish Meredi.
What a siyum that must have been.
It was
Everyone.
a nice yom. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a nice yom. My mother came to the yeshiva. It was mamish amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
6 months. Unbelievable. Wow.
World record.
Wow. And now you finish Shas
Today
every
I
6
can't do
months?
it another time. I'm too old for
No.
this today.
Wow. So where did you go from there? The Rosh Yeshiva noticed you. You finished Shas. You knew Mishnah Berurah. The secular kid from Tel Aviv now was becoming something.
Yeah, and
What was
after
next?
1 or 2 years, I became married. But before I get married, because of my economic situation at home was so bad, because my father wasn't there, my mother didn't work, so I needed money for buy some sforim that I needed to study. All my friends had in the yeshiva had library full of sforim, and I had nothing. I hadn't the money to buy any sforim, so I needed a job. So I can't do a job and leave the yeshiva. It's not option. So I looking for a type of work that could bring me some money when I'm inside the yeshiva. And Baruch Hashem, I discovered there is book publishing institute that looking for proofreader to go over sforim and find mistakes and typos. And Baruch Hashem, I'm not a talent person, but one talent Hashem has given me since my childhood, that the ability of proofreading. I always was good in proofreading. Even I read a paper, I find the mistakes in the paper. In everything I read, I find something wrong. So I have the ability of proofreading. And Baruch Hashem, I get the job, and it's give me a few shkolim, and I started to buy sforim. It was mamish amazing for me. I started to add a library with sforim. Among all the sforim that I I also bought Rabbi Kanievsky Zatzal sforim, because in our yeshiva was one rabbi who once a week, he was a family member with Rabbi Chaim. And once a week, there is a shiur in the yeshiva who called Maise Noiro. It was sipuri, it was stories about Gdolei Yisrael. And many, many stories he told us about Rabbi Chaim. So since I was in the yeshiva, I'm all the time hearing there is one Jewish, very, very serious, very, very big Talmid Chochem in Bnei Brak, and sit and learn. The whole world knows about him because of Chaim Kanievsky. And I heard very, very, very much stories about him. So it was part of my מהצמיחה שלי. I grew with those stories. So when I had the money, I want to buy all Reb Chaim's Sforim. I heard so much about him. I want to learn his Sforim right now. So I bought his Sforim and start to learn them regularly, especially the Sefer Derech Emuni by Reb Chaim on all Seder Zroim. Mamish captured me, and I studied it all the time. And since I was Boca, I already wrote to myself a notes on the margin of the pages. So after a year or two, I got married, and it was Shnas Shmite. And in the Koilel, one of the Sforim we learned regularly was Derech Emuni. We learned in the Koilel Ilches Shmite, the intricate laws of Shmite. And one of the Sforim that we learned regularly was Derech Emuni. I had new comments that I think about them in the Koilel, and I think to myself, maybe it's worth to send Reb Chaim a letter. Who knows? Maybe he respond to me. Who knows? Mistome don't, because Reb Chaim, with all his greatness and age, answer to one unknown person named Tieger. But still, I send a letter. Baruch Hashem, Reb Chaim respond to me a letter, and he wrote on the top of the postcard something like, "I really enjoy your comments, and I hope you will continue to write to me."
Wow.
I was mamish in shock.
Wow.
The great Reb Chaim that I hear about him for years wrote me a letter. It's mamish amazing for me, and I decided to send him another letter. So I sent the second letter, and Baruch Hashem, he wrote me again and say again, it was mamish good ores, continue. So the corresponding between us were for 4 letters. And after 4 letters, I decided that I had to do who is I corresponding with, because I never saw him face to face. So I decided one day to go to his house in Bnei Brak. I go over his house. It was after Ma'ariv. I remember clearly that I waited in his house for half an hour because there were a rush of people arriving. When I came to him first time, when it was my turn, so Reb Chaim asked me, "What's your name?" And I said, "Tieger." So he then asked me, "Which Tieger, from the letters?" And I said, "Yeah." So he directed me to sit down. This was the first word that he told me, sit down. And he started to conversing with me in learning. It was mamish amazing, from 0 to 100, to knowing Reb Chaim at all, to sitting with him in the first meeting. Reb Chaim, if you know, he didn't like people sitting near to him. You want to ask a question and go away, but don't sit here. There is many people before you, after you. I can't everyone to sit with me. And in our first meeting, he told me to sit near to him. It was mamish.
Rav Tieger, what year was it? What year was that first meeting when you went to go see him in person?
As I said, after Ma'ariv.
How long? What year?
How long I sit with him?
No, how long ago? How long ago?
How long ago? It was something like 22 or 23 years.
Long time ago. So he was younger. He was stronger. He
was 70 years old when I first met him.
Wow. So you sat down and talked and learning, and a little kid who went swimming on Shabbos from Tel Aviv now is sitting and talking to Reb Chaim and learning.
Yeah, he didn't know about my background, but after years he already know about it. I had the first sefer. My first sefer, all of it is Tshuvas of Reb Chaim wrote to me on the Derech Emuni sefer. So when I wanted to print it, I want Reb Chaim to give me a skome. And at that time, Reb Chaim didn't give a skome at all to nobody at the world. So I asked him a skome. I told him, all the sefer is your tshuvas. I just asked the question. You write all the tshuvas, so you need to give me a skome. But my name at that time was Oren. I born as a Oren, not as a Uri. So Reb Chaim told me, I can't hear the name Oren. It's not normal name. I told him, I'm not blame on that. You can blame my parents. I'm not the blame. So I started to told him about my background, and since then he know about my background. So he wants me to change the name to Aaron, but I told him that Aaron is my shver. I can't be called Aaron. So he's told me, Uri, you since today became to be a Uri. And that's
Did
all.
you do?
I'm Uri.
Did he do a Kriya Shem? Did he give a new name?
I'm going to the shul. Yeah, I'm going to the shul the day after and do the Kriyas Hashem. Yeah.
And your mother was okay with that? Your mother was okay with that?
Yeah. Sometimes, she forgot and still called me Oren, but usually it's okay.
But she's okay with it.
I'm sure people close to you knew your story, but as you became, you kept learning and you kept growing. Did you share that part of your life with people in an effort to say, listen, I was there and look where I am today, and I grew and you can too? Or do you try to hide it and say, that was a past? And
it depends with who I'm talking. If there is person, it's not matter to him what I was, so there isn't any reason to say it to him. But there is many people that I see that they have their own problems in the yeshiva, or they struggle with themselves. So I share my story.
Yeah.
I have also many problems when I was young, and Baruch Hashem, I succeed to do some good things in the world.
It's an amazing story.
It's an amazing story.
But
we
can't
stop smiling.
Yeah, we didn't finish the story though.
There is people don't believe that Am was a secular person. Yeah, they can't believe this.
How many Svarim have you printed, Rav Tieger?
Until today, Baruch Hashem, 6 for him, and there is 2 that I'm almost finished.
2 more working on now. But let's go back. So you sat and you're talking with Reb Chaim, and then what happened? You kept going back to see him? What happened after that?
So Baruch Hashem, I came to him every time with few corrections on his forum. So it became in little and stronger every time. The first time I came with 10 corrections on his forum, after with 20 corrections.
What kind of corrections?
More and more corrections on his forum.
Spelling corrections, Girsa corrections,
both of them, everything. Mari Mikame is not true, and there is tears on this forum between, let's say, the Hemone and Nachaleison, all the kinds of ores corrections, all the types. And there was a time that it was too much ores, and it took too much time to Reb Chaim to sit with me in the Kabbalah school. So he gave me a special time, not in the time of the Kabbalah school, but told me to come to him every afternoon. After he was resting at noon, so he told me to come to him, and we go upstairs at the 3rd floor, and we study together over there. In the first years, by the way, Reb Chaim didn't trust me so much. Every correction that I show him, he don't trust me. He opened the Gemara, the Medrash, the Chazon Ish, whatever, and look for himself that I was really right. Just after a few years, when he understand that most of my corrections are right, he started to trust me much more, and Baruch Hashem, insert my corrections more readily.
Wow.
It wasn't easy at the first years.
And then you became the official person to correct this?
Yeah. Baruch Hashem, it mamish became official that I was the proofreader of Modern Reb Chaim's forum. Because when Reb Chaim want to print a new sefer, or he wants to reprint a new edition for his previous forum, he asked me to go over the sefer and find all the mistakes before the printing, because it was mamish important to him that his forum will be without any mistakes, will be pure.
Wow.
He spent for this Indian so many hours with me and without me. I show him first the corrections, and there was another people show him. From all over the world who learn Reb Chaim's forum, they send him a ores. But one send him on Per Gimel mi Matnoi Sanim, one send him on Per Aleph Mikilayim, one hour here, 1 hour there. I do the job from the beginning to end, all this forum completely. So it took him very many hours to go over all the ores, all the tikkunim, all the corrections, and he do it because it was very, very important to him that his forum will be pure, without any mistakes.
So
there
you
was
learned.
one funny story, if you allow me to
Yeah,
tell
please.
you one funny story.
Please.
His Sefer Shoine Aloches was printed in 10 editions, and every edition he print, and he discovered there is a few mistakes in the printing and few errors about it. So we wrote on the Gillian, on the margin of the page, and next edition he print tikunim in the end of the Sefer, tikunim leMahadura Rishono. After he printed a second edition, and there is a new tikunim, he printed tikunim for third edition. Like this, there was 10 editions of Shoine Aloches. Shoine Aloches, 3 volumes. And after 10 editions, Reb Chaim decided that probably all the tikkunim that's possible in this sefer already found them, and he decided to do a new printing of all the Shoine Aloches with all the tikkunim inside, not at the end of the sefer, inside in new printing. So all the years, 15 years that I do in the proofreading of Moron Zatzal, he always wanted to pay me, and I never took 1 shekel and $1. Never. A mamish want to pay and never took something because I told Reb Chaim, it was my privilege, it was my schus to sit with Reb Chaim. I took a money for it. I'm not such a crazy. But he always wanted to give me because Reb Chaim didn't like that people do something free for him. But in this case of Shoine Aloches, it was like this. He wanted me to go over the new printing of the Shoine Aloches with all the tikkunim inside, and he wanted me to do the proofreading, the Agoe, 4 times, he said, because this Shoine Aloches is Sefer Aloche Lemaise. He said, Aloche Lemaise, it's supposed to be very, very carefully with the Agoe, because even if there was one psik, one letter, something not in the right place, it could change the whole Aloche. So you need to over it 4 times, very, very carefully. But I don't give you the sefer if you don't take money about it. And I asked him, what's so urgent, the Rav, to give me money just this time? He said, because it's Aloche Lemaise, the Gemara says, Asya bemogen, mogen shavye. If you go to a doctor and not pay him, he don't give you the right medicine. Asya bemogen, mogen shavye. If you do it for free, it's not serious. It's not serious work. I want to pay you. Do the work, the better work you can do. So I told him, not going to happen. I'm money from the Rav, not going to take. And Baruch Hashem, I able to took this from the behind door. Baruch Hashem.
You got it done anyway. But he did pay.
Yeah.
He did pay you in another way, right? When he would come to Yerushalayim.
Yeah. Baruch Hashem, the Reb Chaim is tremendous Akora Satoy for me. Tremendous Akora Satoy. And he came to visit me in Yerushalayim 2 times in my house in Yerushalayim. At Chol HaMoed Pesach, it was 2 times at Chol HaMoed Pesach, because Moron Zatzal is known, came to Yerushalayim only 3 times a year in Shloshes Arigolim. And in Pesach, he came to my house 2 times to visit me. It was mamish amazing. I was, at the first Bikur, I was something like, I think even 30 years old I was. Reb Chaim, 80 years old, came to visit one guy in Yerushalayim, 30 years old. It was after midnight. It was mamish amazing.
Wow. So what was it? You talked about what it was like to learn with Reb Chaim and to go over the Sfarim Reb Chaim. Did Reb Chaim ever make small talk? Our image of Reb Chaim is that the Sarah Torah was only learning Torah.
It's true. It's
so
true.
Was there
but
a relationship? Was there a conversation?
Yeah. Baruch Hashem. He took an interest in my personal life, and he also told me personal things about himself. But the personal things that the Rav told me is about his life, stories when he was learning in Lomje, in his yeshiva, some stories from there, and many stories about the Chazon Ish, about his father. That was the small talk of Reb Chaim. Stories about Gdoilei Israel.
Well, For those that don't know Reb Chaim, there are people that are tuning in from many, many different walks of life. How would you describe Reb Chaim to people?
Reb Chaim first was a human being. He acted like Malach Hashem Tzevokos, but he was a human being. And people need to understand it because he do all what he does normally. Reb Chaim wasn't a person with stress, with nervous. He's done so much every day, but he was normally. You can't see him angry. You can't see him in a rush. Everything was normally. He was normal person. That's the basic. After he was normal person, he able to do all day long all his choives and the Kabbalah Skol and Sunday calls and writing letters every day to people. He did so much in his time, but everything was normally. And I said it to people because it's very important. Person wants to be babue de babue, the Reb Chaim. He starts with nervous. I learn every day 10 pages of a Gemara, and I start to say, and everything with nervous and pressure. No, Reb Chaim wasn't like this. He was the most calm person in the world.
Did you watch the interaction between Reb Chaim and the Rebbitzin? Did you see the way that they interacted together?
Yeah.
What did you learn from their interactions?
They had very deep relationship between them. First of all, Reb Chaim never ate without the Rebbitzin. He was waiting for the Rebbitzin until she comes. And it's not what was the easy thing to do, because the Rebbitzin, after Minche and after Mariv, she came with a group of women every time. And it took time until she ended with all the women. It took time from the door of the house until the table. It could take 1 hour, And he waited. He didn't eat nothing until the Rebbitzin was at the table. He didn't touch the food.
I wonder. Most of us, none of us, can achieve Reb Chaim's greatness in Torah. The daily learning he did, his memory, he was a repository of Torah. He was unbelievable. But maybe we could be more like him in Midos, in his character and in his relationship with his wife and so on. So what are some of the Midos? What did you witness when the cameras were off and nobody was watching? What did you see, the real Reb Chaim in terms of his Midos?
I tell you one nice thing. I bring a person who take the videos that I publish in the world, all my videos. So the person who took the videos told me that there is very big difference between Reb Chaim to the other Rabbonim. He took the videos from them because the other Rabbonim, there is two kinds of Rabbonim. There is Rabbonim when the camera works, and there is the same person with the camera off. We said Reb Chaim is the only Rab is the same with the camera on or the camera off. He didn't mention the camera. The same person. Reb Chaim, besides he was knowing all the Torah Kulo, he was a great, great tzaddik. You can't imagine how tzaddik this person was. For example, he go to bed, I talking about the early years, not the early years, the last years when the walking was very, very hard for him. He go once to the bed after lunch, and suddenly remember that he didn't walk Daled Ames. The Gemara said that every person after the meal should go Daled Ames. It's not healthy not to go Daled Ames and go bed right after the meal. So he remembered that after the meal he didn't go Daled Ames, but it wasn't true. He got Daled Ames. Between the table, lunch, and his bed, there was more than Daled Ames for sure. Even Shua Chazonish Daled Ames. But he didn't do it because they didn't the Gemara. He wanted to do the Daled Ames because the Gemara said, but he forgot to do it because this reason. So the walking was very hard to him at those days, and he came again from the bed and go Daled Ames around the room and come back to the bed. No one saw it except me and another guy who was there. No one saw it. No one knows about it. He was doing this because he knows that's what the right thing to do. There was plenty of things and plenty of examples like this that he does so much tzaddikest things that no one even think about doing these things. And
Rav David Cohen is the Gvul Yavitz, a Rav in New
Yeah.
York, was very, very close with Reb Chaim. And he says people don't appreciate Reb Chaim's sense of humor. He had a wonderful sense of humor. So we
That's
picture
true.
a Rav who was just serious, but that he had a big smile and he could laugh and he had a sense of humor. Did you
That's
see that?
true. That's true. The Rav, because he was so tzaddik, first of all, he made me all the time feel so comfortable with him. You know, I'm the little and Reb Chaim so big, and I was sitting like him, mamish afraid. But he gave me all the time the feeling it's comfortable. You can sit, you can talk, whatever you want. Few times I saw him, he was not in a good shape. He was sometimes he didn't feel good. Sometimes he was mamish fall asleep on the stander. And I don't want to talk with him in that time. He said, no. Whatever you want, speak. Yeah, I'm here for you. Just do what you want to do. It was giving the good feeling because the mamish was tzaddik. It's amazing. Wow. And about the sense of humor, yeah, that's for sure. He was telling stories, and mamish, he knew how to tell the story in the funny way, not in the serious way. He in each story, he find exactly the right point. It was funny. He want the person who hear it to enjoy the story.
Amazing.
He knew how to deliver the story in a funny way.
Right.
Were there things that he shared with you that he hoped for, that he looked at Klal Yisrael and things were just challenging and he just maybe expressed that things could change in some way?
No, I'm with him in the private things. In Klal Yisrael things, I never talk with him.
Interesting.
Okay. Many hundreds of times in the years, people ask me to go to Reb Chaim and ask eitzes and broches for all the problems, shidduchin, kids and money issues, health issues. And I hear very much things that he told eitzes for people. And Baruch Hashem, there was so much nisim, so much miracles that people whoever listened to what he said. There were smart people who think, Reb Chaim said, oh, it's not fit for me. His eitzeh. They didn't succeed. But whoever listened to his eitzes, Baruch Hashem, will zoiche.
It's a big loss for Klal Yisrael. A year later, now the year at sight, and Akash Baruch Hu gives every generation our gedolim. So Mitzvah Hashem, will the Klal Yisrael will continue, but it's a huge loss, Echad Bedoro, and recognized by everybody. A huge loss for you personally, a huge loss for all of us. Rav Tieger, when you look back on your life and where you began to where you are, a secular kid from Tel Aviv to having been a Chavrusa and a close confidant, close with Reb Chaim, it's hard to believe. What's your message to other people maybe who are lost? There are kids 15 to 18 years old. You say those 3 years. Maybe parents, we should be more patient with our children while they're finding themselves and not rush or put pressure on them that they have to be the Gadol Hador at 15 years old. Maybe when you're a teenager, you're still finding yourself and you're figuring it out, and you could end up with your own greatness. So as you look at your life, what would your message be?
My message is never give up. Even if the worst times that every person through, and especially in the young ages, here in Israel we call it tipeshesre, in the young ages. So every boy had a difficult life in those ages because he don't know what he want to do. He don't know even what he capable to do, and not give up. After you find your place, you need to go it in full power, because you never know what's going to be for a few years after. And Baruch Hashem, I think every person need to be strong, not to listen to the street, not to not go after the money, not after all how our streets look today. Be strong in the Judaism, and as you have much more challenges, you have much more siyata dishmaya after. If you work on yourself and stand strong with the many challenges you have, as well, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu give you much more siyata dishmaya after. And that's the secret to succeed.
Rabbi Tieger, thank you for your time.
Wow.
Amazing story. Thank you for your svarim and your contributions to Klal Yisrael. Should continue, and we really appreciate you joining us. And we should have nechama on this first Yurtzeit. Klal Yisrael should have nechama, and we should all continue to follow as best we can in Reb Chaim's ways.
Amen. Thank you for having me.
Amen. Thank you. Rabbi Broide, what do you think, Rabbi Uri Tieger?
Can't
artist
stop
formerly
smiling.
known as Oren, now Rav Uri Tieger. Talk to me. What were your takeaways?
I have to admit that there was a moment that I said to myself, you know what? I could do it in 6 months. I can go through Shas. And then I just,
Shas in 6 months.
A second later, I was like, I don't know if that's possible. So I was like,
6 months is
and I love how he's so humble. He says, listen, I just got, just for all honesty, it's full disclosure. I just did it with Rashi.
Right, exactly. I didn't do Taisus and Rishonim. It's just more Rashi. So it wasn't a big deal. Outrageous.
But
what I love about him is not just his story or clearly how brilliant the gifts he's been given by God, but his cheerfulness. He's got a great demeanor, disposition, smile, happy, cheerful. Because I was thinking while he was talking that if someone else said these same things, they would come across as boastful or arrogant. But you see that the demeanor, you don't feel that. No. He's sweet, he's genuine, his smile. I met him this past weekend, Project Inspire, which is a project of Esha Torah, 1,100 people for the weekend who are inspiring themselves to inspire others to get out there and do kiruv, move the needle on assimilation. So you can imagine his story was really inspiring. Look at this Arachim seminar. Whoever invited his sister to an Arachim seminar changed the course of Reb Chaim's life.
Wow.
Just connect those dots. Connect those dots. Whoever invited his sister to an Arachim seminar changed the course of Reb Chaim's svarim.
Right.
You never know.
Impact
so get out there.
Israel.
Inspire yourself, inspire others. You learn with someone. You could be helping inspire the next Chavrusa of Rabbi Kanievsky.
You know what I wonder is if his old friends, if he ever called them and if he's still in touch with them, and if he's ever brought them to see Rabbi Chaim or engage with some great people.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a good question. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It was a great weekend, Project Inspire. Really, 1,100 people talking about Mavakshim, thirsty, hungry, wanting to be inspired. Amazing speakers. I tried to get out of my own talk so I could go listen to them. They were just the who's who, a great list. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful Shabbos. Gashmis and Ruchnius made a lot of new friends, saw a lot of old friends. It was really a great Shabbos. I'm grateful to Project Inspire.
We got started from Project Inspire back in the day.
Were we 101 years at Project Inspire?
Maybe.
It was
on the video. No, it was Project Inspire. We were on the video. We were on the Tisha B'Av video. Yeah. Back in the day. It's funny because
we missed the dinner. There was a snowstorm.
No, that might have been that was end job.
Oh, that was end job. That's
right. Right.
That's right.
My mother made it in.
Yeah, she represented us.
She
received it on our behalf. Meanwhile, I got to tell you, at my Parsha shir this week, let's just end with a Mrs. Brody story.
Yeah. At
a Parsha shir this week, a couple minutes before the shir, someone knew who moved in, and someone introduced them to your mom and said, "This is Mrs. Brody." And they turned to your mom and you said, "Oh, you're Rabbi Brody's wife?" And your mother said, "You are my new best friend."
Right.
It was a great moment. It was a really sweet moment. Anyway, other sweet moments, go to gilliesgoodies.com. Gillies Goodies, our good friend David, send a package. Soldiers, you could just sponsor a package to go to Soldiers, or send mishloach manos to someone you love in Israel. Fresh baked, incredible mishloach manos anywhere in Israel. And as soon as you're done, or right before you do it, gilliesgoodies.com, BRS Global. We need your help. We need your partnership. brsonline.org/global. We have coming up. Should we tell them what we're doing for the Global?
Oh, it's big. This is a big
marathon
announcement. Yeah, I don't know if they're.
No,
ready
we're not going to do
hear
it yet. We're not going to do it yet. But there's a marathon, 6 straight hour live, something special coming to you. So it's going to be pretty incredible, and you won't want to miss
calculate Ma'ariv, Mincha, bathroom breaks. It's not going to be easy, but we'll
not going to be
easy.
But stamina. We're going to have to work for days beforehand to build up the stamina. We're going to get it done. So thank you to those people who've already joined our global campaign. You're helping us meet our goal. Thank you to those who are going to finish listening or watching now. Hang up and go on brsonline.org/global and join. And thank you to our friends at Gillies Goodies. Until next time, stay